I've lost my sense of inhibition.
Katrin, are you a bit mad?
I'm Shandian. Shandy in the 18th century was a slang word for a little bit off and a bit silly. I'm not bothered about what other people are going to think, and that is massively liberating. If my work ticks all of those 5 boxes, then I know that I'll have made something that I'm happy with. So where we're standing now is the front, where we get all the light from, and this side obviously is where I work on the wheel and do hand building and decorating. And on the other side is my desk where I make notes and plans and I store finished work. So, yeah, home from home. There's a couple of very good reasons why clay is my material of choice. One of which is that it's a very egalitarian material because everybody's got ceramics of some kind in their home. And when I see examples of historical ceramics in museums and galleries that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, I always think they're like time machines because they're as fresh and new as the day they came out of the kiln. So they're literally the exact same thing for thousands of years. So when you see like a Roman pottery shard with a thumbprint on it, or a tile with cat paw prints going across it or something, I just love that. This is all Italian Renaissance maiolica here, which has been the style that I've been focusing on. Maiolica is this decorative technique that was prevalent in Italy in the 15th, 16th centuries, and it is made with earthenware clay that they dug up from riverbeds and decorated with a tin glaze, and it produces this really lovely matte solid white surface, and then the decoration is painted on using oxides. What I do, I will dip a leather hard pot into white slip, which is liquid white clay, and then I'll paint with underglazes on top of that white surface that I've got there. Then I'll do the biscuit firing, then cover it in a clear glaze, fire it again. So the results are really predictable. What I really like to do is to connect contemporary everyday experiences and events with social history to make the point that we are all the same and we always have been the same. History and formal art history seems a little bit inaccessible to a lot of people because they don't have that background. So I really like to kind of bring the past into the present with my work. So I'm using these very recognisable historical styles and shapes and decoration to talk about something that we all experience today. My project that I made was all about my experience of menopause, but I wanted it to be positive and not depressing to look at. So I have been quite light-hearted about it, but it was very much about my experience. One symptom of which really affected me was brain fog, and the vase that I made was acquired by the V&A. In the first part of my research for this project, I went and had a look at pharmacy vases in the maiolica style. The snake was a symbol for health and healing at the time, and anybody walking past an apothecary shop or a doctor who would see especially two snakes entwined around a staff, that was the symbol for a doctor and healing. Also, the snake is a reference for the treachery of women in the Garden of Eden. So I really like that dual meaning of the symbol of the snake. This is the first version of the vase that the V&A have acquired. Its name is Cerebrum nebula, which is Latin for brain fog. Snake handles aren't beautifully symmetrical and ordered. They've wandered off and got lost around the neck of the vase in my brain fog kind of visual symbol way. The background of the piece is painted in a cloudy, foggy sky, and the texts are snatches of phrases that often run through my head, such as, I forgot the word for, why did I come in here? I often think that. Can't find the thingy. What was his name again? That kind of thing. And the ribbons that I've got here are torn off and frayed to symbolise my incomplete and frayed thoughts. These are mottos that I've been writing myself about the positive aspect of ageing, and it's been really good fun to make my own mottos to go with my own made up coats of arms. So I've got one about menopause that is here. This is my symbol for menopause, which is an egg on wings. So it's the symbol of fertility flying away over a lake of fire because of hot flushes, etc. And there's starry sky because of insomnia. So those are some very well-known symptoms, but it's not all bad. And my favourite one, which I'm using on my business card now, is this one. Productivum non generatua, which is productive, not reproductive. So that's me right now. Laurence Sterne was a writer and a vicar, and he wrote an absolute stone cold classic called The Life and Opinions of Tristram, Shandy, Gentleman. And there are lots and lots of jokes. You wouldn't know that they're dirty because they're told in this 18th century idiom because it was written in 1759. For example, you read a passage about somebody planting cabbages, you wouldn't think anything of it, but actually that's really rude. I would like to talk about this nose because that is taken from a cast of Laurence Sterne's nose of a bust that was made of him that is in Shandy Hall. And I was the artist in residence there. So I made a set of noses from Laurence Sterne's conch because noses feature a lot in the book as a reference to, I'm sure you can guess. So the work that I make now is very much informed by that approach to ideas expressed through humour. Visual symbols were present in much of the Italian Renaissance artwork that would be seen by, say, the average churchgoer, and there was mass illiteracy at the time. So they would be very well conversant with these symbols. Say they would all know what a pomegranate meant, or an apple, or a dog, or a rabbit, or keys, or anything like that. They would know how to read a painting. I really like the idea that the emoji is the modern day equivalent of that, and it's an unofficial kind of folk language which has taken on a life of its own since the first emojis were made back in the 1980s. Apparently a group of Japanese high school girls made the first set of emojis to talk to each other on their pages, and some emojis have evolved to take on new meanings that were not the original intention. For example, the aubergine. I think we all know what the aubergine means, don't we? So I've decided to make a collection of a mixture of Renaissance symbols and emojis. So it's quite hard to tell the difference between an emoji and a Renaissance symbol. And then I've moved on to including emojis as a three-dimensional frame around this tile panel, which is one of a pair, and they're going to be tree of life panels, all with symbols corresponding to 18th century slang words for male and female genitalia. I didn't know what a placket racket looked like, so I've just guessed that it might be a bit of like a tennis racket. And you can see some examples of this type of thing in the V&A, where Andrea della Robbia has made fantastic examples in it with fruit and flowers and leaves and berries, and they're absolutely sensational. I've just blocked out the female version. I'm in the middle of decorating it. I have to keep it in this plastic wrap to stop the tiles drying out too much. So I just did the lettering yesterday, and I'm going to carry on decorating the symbols. So there we are, there's the female one. There are many, many, many slang words to choose from the female variety, which I find quite amusing. Some of them are nicer than others. So I feel like front window is a lot better than nettle bed, for example. The connotations of those two things are quite different. Yeah, but I might start referring to my tuppence. I quite like that. I'm just graffitoing in the outlines that I've painted over with this sharp needle, so I get a nice clear outline. And then that scrapes through the underglaze and the slip to the clay underneath, and it makes a nice sharp line come out, and it creates these little burrs, which I've got to wait for it to dry a little bit more, and then I can brush those away. I do like the painting. When I've blocked it all out like this, I can let my mind wander a bit, because I don't have to think about what I'm doing so much. So that's nice and relaxing. I could just sit here with the radio on or whatever. I'd rather get my message across in a light-hearted, kind of cheeky sort of a way. You can say quite controversial things if you make it funny and fun to look at. And I think that is really important to me, that I keep that to that right side of light-hearted with my work, rather than being cross about things. I'm just kind of gently poking people in the ribs a bit, rather than hitting them over the head. And if it makes me laugh, I feel like maybe it'll make other people laugh too.